Hello and welcome, Crosstown Gamer, back at it again, and this time we are continuing our playthrough of A Distant Plain, Insurgency in Afghanistan. This is Volume 3 in the Coin series, and we are partway through at this point. We've played a couple of cards, a few cards, actually, I guess 4. And this is the state of things right now. If you haven't watched the series so far, we are playing as the Coalition, which is the tan cubes here, versus the bot factions controlling the other 3, so the government, the Warlord, and the Taliban. When last we spoke, the Taliban had done a terror op that kind of ravaged I want to say eastern seaboard, but there's no sea over here, the eastern region of Afghanistan, and southeastern really. And so there's a lot of terror markers on there, a lot of opposition. Let's see what we can do to counter that. So the government and the Taliban are up next on the next card, which is Karzai to Islamabad. And so we're going to check what the flowchart says for the Taliban to do. So if the current or next card is a capability, nope, neither card is. Then they're going to play the capability. Or they're going to see 8.1. And it's not a momentum either. So they're going to play the shaded part if it's effective, which means basically it does anything that would have some sort of effect on the game state, whether it's putting pieces on, moving pieces around. It's got to do something. And if either part, shaded or unshaded, could shift support down, opposition or Taliban resources up or down, remove or replace Taliban bases, or remove coalition pieces, or shift Islamabad. Let's look at what the card says. So it looks like shift Islamabad 2 boxes toward hostility is an option, or Taliban resources +6, government ineligible through the next card. Interesting. Okay. So if they played this, the government would be ineligible through the next card, which is honestly what they want, because the government is going to be up next as it is anyway. So it looks like they want to do this. It's effective. We know that. So it's effective. It does something because it shifts Islamabad. Or actually, I'm sorry, the top half shifts Islamabad. So either part could do that. But it is going to cause Taliban resources to go up. So it looks like they are going to do the event. Long roundabout way of saying that. They're going to do the event, and they play the shaded part. So Taliban resources +6. They're currently at 8. So 6 + 8 is going to be 14. Government ineligible through the next card. So they played the event. We made record time. We went 3 minutes, even with my over-explaining, did an event. So government's going to be ineligible because that's what the card says. And so when we shift eligibility, these 2 factions are going to go. Government's going to remain ineligible. And then the Taliban's going to be ineligible as well. So that's the state of things after Karzai to Islamabad. And we're going to play the next card, which the government wanted to play. So kind of interesting that the timing worked out in their favor. The card following that is going to be Development Aid. So it looks like the government gets a chance to play another card after all. But we're going to see what happens on this card. So Coalition, us, and the Warlords are up next. And we get to have a choice. So we can shift the Islamabad 1 box toward hostility. Or if we don't play the event, the Warlords might be able to shift it 2 boxes towards sponsorship, and then add some aid and patronage, which would help the government player and honestly help us too. But here's where we start out here, and after the reset phase for a campaign card that comes up, or a propaganda card, I'm not sure what they're called in this, I forget. But if if the propaganda card comes up, or it is a propaganda card. If it comes up, it'll shift back towards backing, but we have the option of shifting it this way, which would mean that the Taliban rally and march to and from Pakistan would end up costing resources rather than it's free currently. Otherwise, if we don't do that and the warlords end up going, they can shift it 2 spaces towards sponsorship, which means that they would shift it 1, and then they would flip it to hard, which is just an extra level that makes it harder to move. And that would be bad, because then the Taliban would be eligible after they take events. So, for example, on the last card, they might be able to remain eligible through that. So it might be worth doing the card just for the sake of preventing that from happening. I don't usually like to game the events and like look to whether the warlords would actually take this card or not before I make a decision. And so, I mean, it's just not that strong of an event. Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm not the world's expert on strategy for this game. But it seems like we want to figure out a way to mitigate the terror that's on the board and get more support, because we're really far behind. We need to get, we're way down here at 10. We need to get all the way up to 31 to be in contention for the win. Though we are playing the long game. Well, we're playing the short game, but we're playing the long strategy of we have to get through the whole deck before we can win. So, yeah, I'm a little scared of this. So I think we are going to take the event, just so that the warlords can't do it. So we'll shift the Islamabad box 1 toward hostility, which hostility is this direction. And maybe the government can do something too and shift it even further. So that way, we can get some of these other effects that are negative toward the Taliban into play. So then we will move along to the warlords that are going to do some operations. And I'm just flipping the book open to they're on the first page. Okay. So they can't do the event, and they're not at 0 resources, so they won't pass. Oh man, I'm already wondering if that was a mistake, because we got to deal with these guerrillas up here in the Balk region, and well, we'll see. Rally would place a guerrilla with bases, so I think that's going to be a yes, because replace guerrillas with bases. So basically, can the guerrillas add bases to the map? Not just can they, but would they? In order for that to happen, I believe they need at a space with, we can even see it here, at a space with 3+ warlord guerrillas, they would plop a base down. They could cultivate, but that's not a replace guerrillas with base situation. I'm just looking to see. I believe, though, we're looking at this. So they want a situation where they have 3+ warlord guerrillas, so that when they replace 2 of them with the base, they still have 1 protecting it. On the map, though, the only spots with room for bases and warlord guerrillas have either 1 or 2. So if they were to replace here, they could pop the base down, but then those bases would be undefended, and so that would be bad for them. So it looks like on the map here, that's going to be a no. No for that. Because I'm pretty sure cultivate doesn't actually replace guerrillas, it just places a base. So the answer to this question is a no, even though they could place a base through using cultivate when they're rally. Players at a positive victory margin, no. They're going to march again. This is going to be bad. Okay, leave minimum of 1 guerrilla at each warlord base. 2 unlocks unless over 45 resources or last campaign. And they don't want to create any control. they're going to get one underground guerrilla at a warlord base with no such at warlord bases with no such warlord guerrillas were able. So what they want to do here is they want to get their warlords. Sorry, they are the warlords. They want to get their guerrillas to spaces with other guerrillas there that doesn't have a base from their base. And so all the spots on the map they just have a single guerrilla, except for this line of communication, which they can't remove. They want to keep 2 on the line of communication at all times, and then this one here. So they have the ability to march from here, but there's no space that could march to with guerrilla. Oh well, down here they could march with other guerrilla. So they could get to a spot that contains other guerrillas. It does not contain a base. I believe that's what this one underground guerrilla at a warlord base. So that does qualify in Baglan. To a spot that has other with no such warlord guerrilla. Oh, no. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm just reading this back and forth in my mind, and I just want to be able to parse this correctly. So I'm actually going to look in the rules to see, because sometimes the sentence is a little more thorough than the player aid. Oh, yeah, so my apologies. I'm just completely misreading this sentence. They want to get one guerrilla to a warlord. It says at, and I know that's definitely one way to say it. In my brain, I want it to say, like, get a guerrilla to a warlord base that doesn't have a guerrilla already. So they just want to protect their bases there. I know we've been through this before, and I still botched it. So all their bases are protected by at least one guerrilla. So they don't want to actually do this step at all. They want to get 2 guerrillas to each reachable line of communication, unless they're, it's the last campaign card or they're at 45 plus resources. They can't do that. They can't get exactly 2 guerrillas onto each reachable line of communication because they only have this one guerrilla to work with. They don't want to abandon their base. Unless last campaign, get 3 plus warlord guerrillas from multiple random sources into each reachable 1 plus pop space where there's room for a base. Again, they want, that is the highest population space. They want to stay there. They want more guerrillas in that spot so that they can place a base. They want to remove the most control. I don't think they have the option to, because all the spots near them are over. They have more coin control. Like this has coin control, this has coin control. So they're not going to be able to remove it though, because there's enough pieces to mitigate that. If in a loop, I don't think we're in a loop. If in loop. Oh, that's, if none, we're going up here. If none, we're going down here. So if we're in a loop, then we're going to attack. But yeah, so if there's some kind of loop going on, which we haven't encountered, so this is a no. So then there's no spots to march. So if none, we follow the arrows again, whoop, and we go back up to here, to the rally. And I just am curious why. Oh no, so this is a different shade of text because it just has the asterisk and the dagger to indicate, when you're going through the stuff up here, make sure that you follow those instructions. So we are going to try to rally, which makes sense to me. After all that, we're going to rally, or they're going to rally. So at 3 plus warlord guerrillas, if there's no space for a base, they're going to Suborn, but there's no spot that has 3 plus warlord guerrillas anyway, so they're not going to do this replacement. At the highest, 1 plus pop with 1 warlord base and room for a base. So that's going to be in the Baglan region, I think, because that has a 3 population and room for a base. The other 3 population spaces are here. And up here, there's no room for a base in either of those locations. So this is the spot. They're going to rally. If rallying could enable cultivate, then they're going to rally and then cultivate. Placing guerrillas until none are available, then flip underground where there are none such. Okay. So if rally placing guerrillas enables cultivate, then they're going to rally and then cultivate. So cultivate just needs a province selected for rally, population greater than 0, and more warlords than police. Which that's already a spot for it. So they don't actually need more pieces in there. But so that doesn't enable the cultivate. So they're just going to cultivate and then rally. So since the one is already spoken for, like they can already do this without needing to rally first, then they're going to cultivate and then rally. So cultivate first means they're just going to place one warlord base there. And remember, it needs to be 1+ population zone with more underground, or just more guerrillas, or underground. Just more warlord guerrillas than police, and there's 0 police in here. So they get to place a base. Boop. And that was their special activity of cultivate, and now they get to rally in that spot. And so, in addition to possibly other locations, they're going to place, they're not going to do this first part. If it's a base and it's not Pashtun, which means it's not green text, that region is not Pashtun, they can place guerrillas up to the population plus bases. So population plus bases is going to be 1 plus a 2 plus 2 bases, which totals 5. So they can actually place 5 guerrillas there, which is a massive number for them. It's almost all their available forces. But this is good for them because then they can march out and then plot more bases down, like in here, for example. They might be able to get rid of coin control in that spot, for example, as well, or up here. So they wanted to do that. Or they can flip all warlords to underground, but they were already underground there. Okay. So this is in a max of 3 spaces, and we've chosen 1 space so far. So where warlord bases, but no other warlords, they're going to rally. They don't have a location like that because all of their warlord bases have warlords there. Then at the highest population warlord bases, they're going to do this same rigmarole here. So there's another 3 spot. I think that's the highest. The reason I'm not looking at other locations right now is because they only have 1 force available. So it's going to go in there. So they're going to plop it in. And they don't get to do the fancy thing where they can take pieces from elsewhere on the map and rally in, like some other coin game, like players in the coin games can do. So they've rallied here and they've rallied here, and they have all their forces on the map now. So even though they still have room for another spot, they ran out of troops, or warlord guerrillas. And so it costs 2 resources because they rallied in 2 different locations. And they cultivated, so that was their whole turn. And now we would adjust eligibility. And the government are now eligible again. So we're going to play the next card, which is Development Aid. And then the card following that is going to be, oh, holy smokes, our first propaganda card. So this will actually be good. I'll stop the video after this card when we get to this. And then in the next video, we can actually go through all the different steps of the propaganda card. So I don't know how many we've played now, probably 6. I'm not sure what I am sure. To create this deck, we made different piles, I think 4 different piles, and shuffled the propaganda card into each of them. So we know we have at least another, whatever the total number of cards in there. I think there was like 72 cards. Oh, no, but we took a bunch out. So 60 cards. There's probably 12 cards in there, so we probably have another 6 under there before another propaganda card is even possible. These are the kinds of things you can think about if you're actually playing a multiplayer game or a solo game as well. If you're wondering when the propaganda card is going to come up, you can just think about how many cards go into each pile for the scenario and do some math from there, and how many cards have been played, etc. Anyway, the government is up first, and so let's look at their sheet. I'm guessing they're going to probably want to do the event, but I want to get this going here. So it's not a momentum or capability, and so they're going to play the unshaded part if it'll shift patronage, resources, aid, or coin control up, place government pieces, free ops or special activities, shift the Islamabad, only if the Taliban's a player, so we're not going to worry about that. If it's less than 3 resources, they're going to pass, but they're at 30 resources, so no big deal. Coalition and government conduct civic actions as if support phase, but spending aid instead of resources. Well, that's fancy. Oh my gosh, though. Shift patronage. It will shift aid. I want them to do this card. Place government pieces, which it's not going to do. It's not going to afford free ops or special activities. It will shift aid, though. It'll shift it down. I think it's like aid or coin control up. Let me look in the rules, and I'll show you the rules where it says. In fact, actually, before I pause, where's that sheet that has all the events on it? Of course, I've lost it now. Here. So this is card number 50. So card number 50, development aid, government, use the shaded text unless Warlords is a player and Warlord resources. Oh, so they don't even want to do this. Oh, of course they don't want to do the unshaded part. They want to do the... Wait, no. I'm getting it backwards. The government will use the shaded text unless the Warlords is a player and Warlord resources greater than 35. Plus 3 patronage. Warlords at a die roll and resources. Man, that sucks, because I really wanted them to do this support thing, obviously, because we want support as the coalition. And, in fact, we didn't want them to do this event so that we could do the event and spend all their money, all their resources. So the special event instructions tend to indicate that I think the event instructions supersede this box here. I'm going to double check in the rules again. Like I said, I don't want to mess this up. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the rules. It has this general non-player sequence of play bit, and then later on, it'll actually go into each particular faction. So if the non-player coalition was in there, here's all of its stuff. If the non-player government is here, here's all of its stuff. So, if the current card... This is basically like a fancy version of the player aid, but more thorough. So, for example, if the current card's momentum, otherwise, blah, 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 play the unshaded part if it will do this. Otherwise, pass. So, that's really great. But I wanted to show you the general rules, the basics here, which I should have been familiar with before I started these videos. So event ops or pass. For a decision, consult first any special event instructions, then the stuff in the box for each faction's flowchart. So we are going to consult the chart first, which says for number 50, the government is going to use the shaded event text, unless the Warlords is a player, but it's not, the coalition's a player. So plus 3 patronage, Warlords add a die roll in resources. So patronage goes up 1, 2, 3, which will also shift coin plus patron up 1, 2, 3. And they're getting ever closer to a win. Oh, yeah, I just also want to make sure. Man, we are lucky. Oh, no, that's the wrong thing. That's their resources. I was just going to make sure no one was like in danger of actually winning this thing right out the gate before we get to our first propaganda card. But it looks like everyone's under control. So they shifted that up, and now the Warlords add a die roll in resources. 1. Okay, not so bad. So die roll, they get to add 1 in resources, and the government has done the event. Now the Taliban gets to go. And they can't do the event, so they're going to start here. And it looks like they're not going to pass either. It's funny, the other ones have like a resource, if resource then pass kind of thing. I guess because they're special activity, they can extort. Or maybe they just don't ever want to pass. Okay. Would a terrorist shift 3+ opposition and or support combined? Let's see. So the terror cannot expose the last underground guerrilla at a Taliban base. So look at all the Taliban bases here, and they only have one above ground. They only have one underground guerrilla and one above ground. So like here they have an underground, here they have an underground. But that's their last one in each of these locations. So the only spot... Nope, that's all of them. So this is going to be a no, because it would expose their last guerrilla. So do they have 15+ guerrillas available? Or a rally would place a base? Now the rally would place a base at 3+ guerrillas again. They don't have any spots with 3+ guerrillas. Let's see how many they have available. Looks like probably less than 15. Here's 5, 10, 11. They have 11 available. And a rally is not going to place a base. So that's a no. Attack and or ambush could remove 2+ coalition pieces. Well, we haven't looked at that yet. We haven't seen the attack or ambush actions in effect. Attack. Any space with guerrilla and enemy. They're going to activate all their Taliban guerrillas. Notice that they don't need any underground guerrillas. They can activate already active guerrillas. So when it says activate all Taliban guerrillas, if they chose this as a spot, they would leave those active, but that counts as activating guerrillas, even though they weren't underground to begin with. Kind of interesting there. Activate all guerrillas, roll a die equal to or less than the number of guerrillas, removes 2 pieces. So, like if they did do it here, if they're going to roll a die, and if it's under a 2, which means if it's a 1, they get to remove 2 pieces. Coalition goes to casualties box, and government cubes before coalition. Bases last. So okay, let's read this again. And then the ambush makes it so that the attack automatically succeeds, and they're going to activate 1 underground guerrilla only. So this specifies underground. So they can ambush in up to 3 spots, but they have to have underground guerrillas. So in the Orozgan region, this could not be picked for an ambush, though it could be picked for an attack. Good to know. So that's those 2. And they get to like place a Taliban guerrilla whenever they do the ambush. So let's go back to our sheet. Would an attack and or ambush remove 2+ coalition pieces? And remember also that they want to eliminate government pieces before coalition pieces. So government cube... So, and in each of these, it's only 2 that they would possibly, even if the attack was, outrageously successful, they could at most remove 2 pieces. Government cubes before coalition, bases last. So there needs to be a spot basically with no government pieces, and there are coalition pieces, because so like this spot, for example. If they were to attack and ambush here, this piece would get removed. But if they were down here, first they would remove government pieces and then coalition pieces. There's more than enough government pieces here to soak up the 2 losses. So I think this is actually going to be a no. Unless, so it's 2 plus coalition pieces total, and that's if they were to attack, like, say, everywhere on the board. But again, this is the only spot that has no government pieces, so it'd only be 1 coalition piece. This is going to be a no. Then they'll march. Or they'll try. For a maximum of 2/3 of the resources, rounded down for all, or for, all resources if the resources are less than 9, which it's not. They're going to march, leave 1 minimum guerrilla at each Taliban base and each non-opposition space. Underground first is what they're going to leave. So they're only going to leave 1 guerrilla to march. Get 1 guerrilla to each, I'm going to say 2 instead of at, to each Taliban base with no such Taliban guerrilla. So are there any unprotected bases of the Taliban's? I don't think so. We would have assaulted if that were the case. So no. At 3 plus guerrillas, place a base. That's a no. All their spots have 2. Where the Taliban are all active at Taliban bases, and there are cubes there. There's a spot where they're all active, but there's no base. In Kabul, if no underground Taliban already, they're going to go here. So they're going to try to rally there. That's 1 spot. And now we have to look at their resources. It's 14. 2/3 of that rounded down is going to be 8. I'm just thinking 2/3 of 12 is 8. 2/3... it's funny. They say, like, never do math on camera. It's also funny because I have a master's in math. So, so I think it's going to be 8 resources for as a maximum of what they're going to do, which is going to be pretty much anywhere they want to march. I think they can march. Because 2/3 of 15 is going to be 10. 2/3 of 12 is going to be 8. So 2/3 of 14 is going to be 9, rounded down. It's going to be 8 resources. But again, it's on camera and I'm tired today. Leave me alone. Then they're going to at least go into Kabul. Wait a minute. Did I botch this? Did I bung this up? Let's see. No, we were supposed to go through the marching orders. I think what happened is I got confused and started reading the rally. Yeah, I started reading the rally text. Oh my gosh, I just need to go to bed. Okay, so we were doing this. No, there are no unprotected bases. Get 3 guerrillas to 1 Afghan space with room for a base. And underground if available, which only if Taliban bases are available. There are 3 Taliban bases available. Are there any spots? Yeah, there are some spots. Like, for example, up here, it's a spot that has room for a base. So they could march there. They could get 3 guerrillas to 1 Afghan space with room for a base. If they were to march one here, up to here, they would be able to have 3 guerrillas in that zone with room for a base. So is that the only spot? Let's see. Leave 1 guerrilla underground first. I want to read the text of this to see if because the other one specified, like, leave 1 underground guerrilla, to protect their bases. And this just says underground first. So let me just double check. My phone is absolutely blowing up right now. There's like 11 texts. It's probably from my family. But I'll look at those later. Okay, so March for the 2/3 resources. It's actually going to be 9 resources because it's close to 15, which is 10. So 9 resources. And they do not relocate the last one Taliban guerrilla at a Taliban base. So it's okay if it's above ground, the one that they leave. So they're going to get 1 underground guerrilla to each Taliban base with no such guerrilla already. That's not going to be it. Then get 3 guerrillas underground if available from multiple sources if needed to 1 Afghan base with room for a base, only if they're available. So the spots with room for a base are going to be here. And, well, there's some down here, but I don't know if they want the Pakistan region or not. So, Afghan space. So not Pakistan. So I think just those 2 locations, and from multiple sources if needed, to get 3 underground if able guerrillas. And so on the player aid, I just want to collate this with the player aid. Get 3 guerrillas to 1 Afghan space, underground if available. So the reason I'm so caught up about this is because, like, in this space right here, they could march 1 guerrilla from here underground and 1 guerrilla from here underground, and that would have 3 underground guerrillas, which are able to march into that. Or does it mean that they just need 3 total, and the ones that are marching need to be underground if they're available? I think it's that one. So this has three locations it could come from, and then this one has 1 location it could come from, which is going to be here. So they will march into here. That's 1 destination space, so 1 resource so far. Down here, we're going to need to roll. We're going to use the black die, and we'll say this is from one of these regions into this one. So a 1 or a 2, a 3 or a 4, a 5 or a 6. 6. So from here, they're going to march into here. Now there's 3 with room for a base. Is there any other spot? No, because all these... Oh, up here. So from here or from here, they need... from here if it's a 1, 2, or 3. From here if it's a 4, 5, or 6. 4. So from here, they'll march 1 into here. Now there's 3 there with room for a base. And make sure they're not abandoning their last guerrilla in any of these spots. So I think that's the only spots. And that was 3 locations. Get 1 underground guerrilla in each into up to 3 spaces. At neutral or no Taliban and no coalition, or at support. Neutral, no Taliban, no coalition would be like here. They need to get 1 underground guerrilla in each of up to 3 spaces. They want to leave their 3 here. They don't want to abandon things here. They don't want to abandon... They've already moved... Yeah, they don't want to abandon here. They want to leave their spaces here, leave their spaces here. I'm just narrowing it down. I think this location could potentially move, but it's into a neutral spot or a support spot. So I think this one, they want to get 1 guerrilla into a location that is at neutral, no Taliban, and no coalition. So there are 2 such locations. There's this one and this one. I assume they would want to go to the one with actual population and not this one, but it doesn't say. And it's spaces, so they could go onto lines of communication. Yeah. But I think what they want to do, they're trying to get... this is the one for lines of communication. So up here, okay, well, it doesn't say specifically that it needs population, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. So they'll go up here anyway. That. And then, so that was 4 total rally locations. And they're going to get up to 2 guerrillas per adjacent lock to outnumber enemies to the highest econ value, and then they're going to march with underground before active guerrillas. Okay, and let's just double check their march, because they might need to activate, let's see, per non-lock destination. Locks are 0. If non-piston, activate the moving guerrillas. Okay, so the lens communication doesn't matter for activating it. It just needs to get under 3. And it's crazy because down here, so they want to keep their stuff here, but down here they can move this onto this 3 lock. So they'll do that, and that'll cost 0 resources because it's a line of communication. Wow. I think that's all of it. I guess technically they could march. They're not going to abandon their spots. Yeah. They're not going to abandon their spot in Pakistan, but they could march onto this line of communication too. They won't do that. So that's 4 resources that it took. And a 5th location was on this line of communication. Which is a real bummer because that's a big one. That's the second biggest one. In either case, that was their march, and now they get to do a special activity. So marched with an extort on the 3 or 4 economic locks. So let's look at their extort. This book's going to fall off. On any spaces. Yep, so on each space, activate that guerrilla, take 2 warlord resources per warlord base, if any. If none, add 1 or unsabotage lock econ in resources. So they're going to activate their guerrilla here, and they're going to get 3 resources because that's the value of that location, 1, 2, 3, and it's not sabotaged right now. And so add 1 or unsabotage line of communications econ in resources. So that's what they did. They don't have to worry because there's no warlord base there, so they don't have to worry about that. That was their special activity, and now we'll adjust our eligibility, and next time we will go through the propaganda card. And apologies for that last card taking a little extra time, but I want to make sure that I'm doing things at least somewhat appropriately and doing the right thing, at least most of the time. But again, if you notice any rules mistakes or you have a different interpretation of what the rules are saying than I do, please do comment so that I can correct it going forward and we can have a smooth game going forward. In either case, this has been A Distant Plane, and can't wait to see you next time. Bye.